Welcome to the Social Lens and thank you for watching.
Necessary effect. We need to pursue all of these measures and more simultaneously in a coordinated fashion and with purpose to turn the utility around.
South Africa is facing an energy crisis. The country's state-owned power utility, Eskom, is struggling to meet demand, and as a result, rolling blackouts, known as load shedding, have become a regular occurrence. The Eskom crisis in South Africa is a multifaceted issue that has plagued the country for years. Its roots can be traced back to a combination of factors, each contributing to the severity of the crisis. In this video, we will delve into the key factors that have led to the current state of affairs, exploring the intricate web that has entangled South Africa's energy sector. Beyond its implications for the energy sector, the Eskom crisis has far-reaching socio-economic consequences. Power outages have become a regular occurrence in many parts of the country, impacting businesses, industries, and the daily lives of South African citizens. The unreliability of electricity supply has hindered economic growth, stifled investment, and affected the overall quality of life for millions of people. Now, let's delve into the key factors that have contributed to this crisis. The Eskom crisis can be attributed, in part, to the old and outdated infrastructure that the utility relies upon. Many of Eskom's power plants were built several decades ago, making them some of the oldest in the world. These aging facilities require significant investment to bring them up to modern standards. Unfortunately, the necessary investments have not been made, resulting in a decline in the reliability of Eskom's power supply. Firstly, older power plants are more prone to breakdowns. The technology used in these plants is outdated, and the lack of proper maintenance exacerbates their vulnerability. These breakdowns disrupt the energy supply and strain Eskom's ability to meet the demand for electricity. As the infrastructure ages, breakdowns become increasingly common. These breakdowns can lead to unexpected power outages, leaving communities and industries without electricity. The lack of reliable power supply hampers productivity and impacts the daily lives of South African citizens. In addition to breakdowns, older power plants are less efficient compared to their modern counterparts. These aging facilities require more fuel to generate the same amount of electricity, resulting in increased operational costs and a strain on the availability of resources. Maintaining and operating older power plants incurs higher costs. The frequent repairs and breakdowns associated with aging infrastructure lead to increased operational expenses. These financial burdens create additional challenges for Eskom, as resources that could be invested in upgrades and modernization are instead allocated to maintenance and repairs. The combination of increased breakdowns, reduced efficiency, and higher costs has placed Eskom in a precarious position. The utility struggles to meet the growing demand for electricity, leading to load shedding. Load shedding is a measure employed by Eskom to manage the shortfall between its available power generation capacity and the demand for electricity. Unfortunately, load shedding has become more frequent in recent years, wreaking havoc on the South African economy. We now turn our attention to the second key factor that has significantly contributed to this dire situation: sabotage and corruption. The deliberate acts of sabotage and the pervasive presence of corruption have deeply impacted the operations of Eskom, exacerbating the challenges the utility faces. Sabotage, a deliberate act of destruction and disruption, has taken its toll on Eskom's power plants. In recent years, numerous incidents of sabotage have been reported, ranging from the theft of copper cables to the intentional destruction of vital equipment. Some incidents have even involved the deliberate setting of fires. These acts of sabotage have resulted in frequent outages at power plants, severely limiting Eskom's ability to generate electricity. Alongside sabotage, corruption has also played a detrimental role in the Eskom crisis. Corruption, defined as the abuse of power for personal gain, has plagued the utility. Multiple allegations of corruption have surfaced, casting a shadow over Eskom's operations. These allegations include the awarding of contracts to friends and family members, the overcharging of Eskom for goods and services, and even the embezzlement of funds. Such corrupt practices have not only caused financial losses for Eskom but have also impeded the company's ability to invest in infrastructure and meet its financial obligations. The consequences of sabotage and corruption reverberate throughout the country. The power plant outages caused by sabotage have led to regular power cuts, disrupting the lives of South African citizens and affecting industries and businesses. The financial losses incurred due to corruption have perpetuated a cycle of underinvestment and financial strain for Eskom, compounding the challenges it faces in fulfilling its responsibilities as a reliable energy provider. Only by tackling these challenges head-on can South Africa pave the way for a more reliable, transparent, and sustainable energy future. We now examine the third key factor that has contributed to this dire situation: load shedding. Load shedding is a measure employed by Eskom to manage the demand-supply gap of electricity, where certain areas of the country experience rotating outages for a specific period of time. Unfortunately, load shedding has become increasingly prevalent in recent years, profoundly impacting various sectors of South African society. The frequency of load shedding has reached alarming levels, with 2023 marking the most severe crisis in South Africa's history. Some areas of the country have endured outages lasting up to 10 hours per day. This persistent load shedding has dealt a severe blow to the South African economy, resulting in substantial losses in productivity for businesses across the nation. The consequences of load shedding ripple through various facets of South African life. Firstly, businesses have borne the brunt of load shedding, experiencing significant losses in productivity. The forced interruption of power disrupts manufacturing processes, impedes operational efficiency, and hampers the delivery of goods and services. The financial implications for businesses have reached billions of rands, exacerbating the economic challenges faced by South Africa. Secondly, load shedding has had a detrimental impact on the education sector. Schools have been forced to close during periods of power outages, causing severe disruptions to the learning process for millions of children. The inconsistency in accessing educational resources and the loss of valuable instructional time place an immense burden on students, teachers, and the overall educational system. Additionally, load shedding has posed critical challenges for the healthcare sector. Hospitals, responsible for the well-being of patients, have had to rely on generators to power life-saving equipment during power outages. This reliance not only increases operational costs but also puts patients' lives at risk. The uncertainty and instability of power supply in healthcare facilities add an additional layer of complexity to an already strained system. Finally, load shedding has profoundly affected the daily lives of South African residents. The inconvenience and frustration caused by the lack of power have compelled individuals to find alternative ways to cope. From relying on candles for lighting to investing in generators and solar installations, citizens have had to adapt to the disruptions brought about by load shedding. The cumulative impact of load shedding on businesses, schools, hospitals, and residents cannot be underestimated. The economic losses, educational setbacks, compromised healthcare services, and individual hardships all contribute to the gravity of the Eskom crisis. As load shedding continues to challenge the stability of South Africa's energy sector, urgent action is required to mitigate its devastating effects. We now turn our attention to the fourth key factor that has significantly contributed to this dire situation: debt. The overwhelming debt burden carried by Eskom has had far-reaching consequences, hindering the utility's ability to invest in infrastructure and meet its financial obligations. Eskom finds itself mired in an escalating cycle of debt, with its financial liabilities growing at an alarming rate. The weight of this debt has severely constrained Eskom's ability to allocate resources for crucial infrastructure investments. Moreover, the company's financial obligations have become increasingly difficult to fulfill. The implications of Eskom's mounting debt are far-reaching and impact various aspects of its operations. The reduced ability to invest in infrastructure upgrades stands as a major consequence of Eskom's debt burden. Insufficient funds impede the modernization and maintenance of power plants, transmission lines, and distribution networks. This lack of investment directly contributes to the deterioration of the system's reliability and efficiency. Compounding the situation, the South African government has had to intervene and provide financial bailouts to Eskom. These bailouts, while temporarily alleviating the financial strain on Eskom, have placed a considerable burden on the state's budget. The need for ongoing financial support diverts resources that could have been allocated to other pressing social and economic priorities. We now delve into the fifth key factor that has significantly contributed to this dire situation: political interference. The involvement of political actors in Eskom's affairs has had profound implications, compromising the company's operations and exacerbating the ongoing crisis. One way in which political interference has affected Eskom is through the appointment of political allies to key positions within the company. These appointments have been marred by allegations of corruption and mismanagement, casting a shadow over Eskom's credibility. Notably, the appointment of former CEO Brian Molefe by then-President Jacob Zuma, despite his lack of experience in the energy sector, exemplifies the detrimental consequences of political patronage. Political interference has also manifested through directives aimed at serving the political interests of the government rather than the best interests of Eskom or the nation as a whole. For instance, the government has directed Eskom to maintain low electricity prices, even at the expense of the company operating at a loss. Such directives have strained Eskom's financial viability and impeded its ability to invest in crucial infrastructure. Furthermore, Eskom has been utilized as a source of patronage by the government, with contracts being awarded to friends and allies. This practice has resulted in overpayments for goods and services, further compounding the company's financial difficulties. The diversion of funds from Eskom's core operations to politically motivated endeavors has worsened the crisis and eroded public trust. The detrimental effects of this interference necessitate urgent measures to prevent similar occurrences in Eskom and other state-owned enterprises across South Africa. We now turn our attention to the sixth key factor that has contributed to this dire situation: the lack of skilled labor. The shortage of qualified workers at Eskom has given rise to a host of problems, undermining the company's ability to provide reliable electricity to South Africa. One consequence of the lack of skilled workers is reduced maintenance of Eskom's aging power plants. Without sufficient expertise, the company has struggled to keep up with the necessary upkeep, leading to an increase in breakdowns and power outages. The failure to address maintenance needs has further strained the reliability of Eskom's power supply. Additionally, the lack of skilled labor has hampered Eskom's operational efficiency. Insufficient expertise and knowledge among workers have resulted in the suboptimal functioning of power plants, contributing to an increase in the cost of electricity. Inefficiency not only burdens consumers but also places additional strain on Eskom's financial standing. Another consequence of the lack of skilled labor is the increased risk of accidents at Eskom's power plants. Without adequately trained personnel, the company struggles to maintain safety standards and protocols. To understand the reasons behind the shortage of skilled workers at Eskom, we must consider several key factors. First, the retirement of experienced workers has left a significant gap in the workforce, with replacements not being hired at the same rate. This loss of institutional knowledge and expertise has compounded the challenges faced by the company. Furthermore, Eskom faces stiff competition from other industries in its quest for skilled workers. These alternative sectors, offering higher salaries and better working conditions, have attracted talent away from Eskom, exacerbating the shortage and further impeding the utility's ability to meet its workforce needs. Lastly, Eskom's reputation for poor working conditions has hindered its ability to attract and retain skilled workers. The unfavorable perception of the company's work environment has deterred potential candidates from pursuing careers at Eskom, exacerbating the labor shortage and intensifying the challenges faced by the utility. We now delve into the appointment of the Minister of Electricity and its potential impact on resolving the challenges faced by the utility. However, as we examine this aspect, it becomes clear that a mere change in ministerial position is unlikely to address the underlying problems plaguing Eskom. To make a substantial difference, the new Minister of Electricity must have the support of both the government and the board of Eskom. Without this essential backing, the minister will face significant obstacles in implementing the necessary changes. It is crucial to recognize that effective leadership requires a collaborative effort, transcending individual appointments. Furthermore, the appointment of a new minister serves as a short-term solution to a long-term crisis. While the position holds influence, the Eskom crisis demands a comprehensive and enduring strategy. It is imperative for the government to develop a robust plan that addresses the root causes and provides sustainable solutions. Moreover, granting Eskom greater autonomy from the government is crucial. By reducing interference and allowing the company to make necessary changes independently, Eskom can navigate its path to recovery more effectively. However, it is important to critically examine the appointment of a new Minister of Electricity and consider whether it is a genuine attempt to address the Eskom crisis or merely a symbolic gesture. Firstly, appointing a new minister is a relatively easy action for the government to take. It requires no major policy or legislative changes, making it an attractive option for demonstrating action while avoiding potentially difficult or unpopular decisions. Secondly, the appointment of a new minister can be viewed as a means for the government to deflect criticism. By presenting a new face at the helm, the government can claim to be taking action, potentially silencing critics and creating the perception of control. Lastly, appointing a new minister allows the government to buy time. This act grants a window for gathering information, developing plans, and potentially implementing real solutions to the Eskom crisis. It provides the government with the opportunity to navigate complex challenges without an immediate sense of urgency. Ultimately, it remains uncertain whether the appointment of a new minister is a symbolic gesture or a genuine attempt to resolve the Eskom crisis. Only time will reveal whether this change in leadership can bring about the necessary transformation and set Eskom on a path toward a more sustainable energy future. In our examination of the Eskom crisis, we now turn our attention to the revealing interview with Andre Marines de Ruyter, shedding light on the corruption and challenges he faced during his tenure as Eskom CEO. However, it is important to highlight some of the failures attributed to de Ruyter during his time at the helm. Throughout de Ruyter's tenure, load shedding persisted, plaguing South Africa with power outages. Additionally, Eskom's financial situation worsened under his leadership, exacerbating the already dire circumstances. Another major concern was the continuation of corruption at Eskom during de Ruyter's tenure. Despite his efforts, the systemic issue persisted, undermining the progress needed to rebuild trust and stability within the company. Furthermore, de Ruyter faced difficulties in garnering government support for Eskom. The company needed strong backing to address its challenges effectively, and the lack thereof hindered progress in overcoming critical obstacles. It is crucial to acknowledge that de Ruyter inherited an incredibly challenging situation at Eskom. The company was already grappling with numerous difficulties prior to his appointment, which were further exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, critics argue that he did not do enough to tackle these issues, and his failures have had a significant impact on South Africa. Nevertheless, it is important to recognize that these criticisms represent only a portion of the opinions surrounding de Ruyter's tenure. There are also those who believe that he performed well in his role as Eskom CEO, acknowledging the immense challenges he faced and the limited options available. Ultimately, it is up to each individual to form their own judgment regarding de Ruyter's success as a CEO. As we conclude our in-depth analysis of the Eskom crisis, it becomes evident that multiple factors have contributed to the dire situation South Africa finds itself in. From mismanagement and corruption to load shedding and a lack of skilled labor, the challenges facing Eskom are complex and interconnected. It is crucial to recognize that there are no quick fixes or easy solutions to this crisis. Resolving the Eskom crisis requires a comprehensive and collaborative effort from all stakeholders involved, including the government, Eskom management, workers, and the South African public. But what can we, as viewers and concerned global citizens, do to support the path towards a brighter energy future for South Africa? First and foremost, we must stay informed and engaged. Educate ourselves about the complexities of the energy sector and the challenges faced by Eskom. By understanding the root causes of the crisis, we can contribute to informed discussions and advocate for effective solutions. Lastly, we can hold our leaders accountable. Demand transparency, integrity, and good governance in the management of public utilities. By exerting pressure on policymakers and decision-makers, we can ensure that the interests of the people and the country are put first. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below.